Okay, good evening. Good evening, everyone. We're sorry for starting in the trying to wait for others to catch on. So, I'm Halaide Daniel, the GDS lead for Ahmadu University. There. Can you guys hear me, please? Please, if you can hear me, if I you can just chat on it, just text, send it text chat so I can know. Can you guys hear me, please?
Yes,
Yes, we
we
can. We can hear you.
Okay, okay.
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, all right, all right. So, please, you can just mute your mic if you're not speaking. So once again, I welcome you to this session, and thank you for joining. Um, I believe we are going to have a very nice session together. So basically, the reason we are gathered here is because of the Google the Google Solution Challenge, and we have with us Aditi Sandhu. She's one of the winners for the 2022 Solution Challenge, and she's basically she and her team worked on okay before that before I introduce her. So I will basically be moving ahead first, telling us briefly what Solution Challenge is all about. So when I'm done with that, she bring her up. Okay, you can hardly hear me. Is anyone facing that issue? You can hardly hear me. Can you guys hear me properly? Sorry, someone is saying you can't hear me. Please, I need feedback. I need to be sure I'm actually speaking. Okay, not properly. What's going on? How about now? Sorry. Hello? It's better. I think it should be better now. I don't know. Trying to. Okay, so let me move. Just let me know if you're not hearing me, so I will know what else to do. Can you hear me clearly? All right, thank you. So I'll be moving ahead. I'll be sharing the screen. Just briefly introducing what the solution challenge is all about, and then we'll bring. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Then we'll bring up our community to share our insights and experience with us rather. So let me share my screen. Sorry. Okay. Um, if you can see my screen, please. Sorry, I'm using my phone to see as the feedback. So, all right. I believe you guys can see my screen, right? Yeah, yeah. All right. Thank you very much. So, firstly, like I said, we are basically the reason why we're gathered here tonight is because of the solution challenge, and the solution challenge is the Google Solution challenge is basically a challenge that is set up by Google, and it's an annual challenge that is designed basically just for students to set up that invites students from developer student club like GDSC, like for instance GDSC Ahmadu University. So this challenge is set up for students from developer student clubs, where they come together to develop solutions for local communities. And for local communities, I'm using one or more Google developer products in or platforms basically. So let me move forward to the next. So basically today we'll be covering the overview, the timeline, and the kickoff and several others. So first off, the hardest part is getting started. So this is like a slide that was shared to us by the Google team. So but I'll be using the same slide to, and I'll be sharing with us basically after the session, so that you can all go through it. So I will try to be fast so we can briefly rush through it. So as I'm speaking, please, you can also introduce yourself in the chat box. Tell us your name, tell us what you do, whether you're a full stack developer, you are a front end, back end, you are a UX designer, or whatever you do, because you don't know who might you might connect with. Since this is a challenge, I will be forming teams and we'll be moving ahead. So basically, so how do we begin the challenge? Like I said earlier, I said this challenge was brought to us by Google, and this is an annual event. And this event will basically be beginning. But before I go into that, so I'll just briefly tell us, okay, how do we come up with solutions? Basically, it's starting with what if, starting in what if questions. What if we could do this? If we could make this better? Okay, all right. I can see people are putting in their comments. Yeah, please let's do that. So the challenge begins with asking questions. What if? What if I could make this better? What if I could make this paper fly? What if I could make uh what if I could make a solution that could help the blind to actually hear or see or read text? It's all starting from what if. So I would love to actually play the videos, but I'm just looking at the time that it will take us. But if there is enough time, we might still come back to it. To advice from winners, since we have Aditi, she will be taking us, like giving us advice and insight. So I'll just be moving ahead to the second slide. So we have for this solution challenge for 2023 solution challenge. It's about the sustainable development goals, and the solution challenge is aligned with sustainable development goals, which is like to solve for one of the United Nations 17 sustainable development goals using Google technology. So it is for us to come up with ideas, solutions that can actually solve for one of these problems. Why we are using Google technology. So the solution challenge, basically, the timeline is beginning. The solution challenge will begin by January, the 11th of January, and that is when the challenge will go live, where you can actually register, and there will be a website. Basically, there's a website actually where you can actually register, and we are doing this basically. The reason why we have this event of this event right now is just so that we can start preparing ahead, because I believe so much in like preparing on time and ahead of a particular event. So, okay, I can see the comments coming in. So it's beginning 11th, where it will be launched live. So and the kickoff event is January on the 18th of January, and then the submissions would begin by the 17th of March, and the submissions closes the 31st of March. So unlike this year is 2022. So unlike this year, they had top 50, but this time around it's going to be top 100 winners, and we'll be going into what they will get, several others. And the final solution is going to, like, after you've developed your solution, you've gone through the first stage of selection, and the first 100 winners, top 100 global team winners are announced. Then to proceed further to the top 10, there will be a final submission, and it's from that final solution submission that the top 10 will be selected, where they will announce the top 10. And so and then the 3rd of August will be the demo day, where the top 3 winners out of this top 10 will be also announced. So I'm trying to rush through this because there is not a lot of time. So yeah, just like I have said, yeah, so we can register for the event. I will be sharing the slide with you. So I will share like the slide with everyone on this call. So yes, and yes, the fun part about it is the prizes. The prizes. All participants receive a Google Developers Digital Profile Badge first, and an official certificate. Then the top 100 teams, the top 100 out of, because this is a global event, this is a global challenge. It is not just in Nigeria, it is not just in maybe Canada or Australia or whatever, it's all over the world. And the top 100 teams will be receiving customized mentorship from Googlers and experts to take solutions to their next level. And they will also be receiving a branded t-shirt and a certificate. So then from the top 100, just like I had said earlier, we have the top 10 finalists. These top 10 finalists will receive an additional mentorship, a swag box, and the opportunity to showcase some solutions as well to Googlers and developers all around the world. This will be live. It will be on like the Google YouTube page live. And in addition to that, the swag box, each individual from the additional seven recognized team, that is the top seven, because from the top 10, we have the top three, and the top three winners, then the remaining seven would also be getting, and will be getting $1,000 per each team members, like per one person. If you have a team of four, each person on that team will get $1,000. If it's a four team person, it will be a maximum prize bonus of like $4,000. So you imagine, see how huge that is. I believe some of us on this call are already thinking, oh man, this is just so much. This is a lot. So, and the top three basically will be winning cash prizes and a feature on the Google developers blog. Please, are you guys excited? I don't know. It's like people are just. I'm trying to. I need the comment section to be, to be hot already like this. Like the prices are mind blowing. So the winning teams will get $3,000 each. $3,000 each per team member, per team members. That means each team will get $12,000. So I think that is huge, and in fact, I can't wait to win also. Yeah. So the judging criteria for the judges, we have the impact. They want to know that okay, this is how do we judge your project? How do you judge your solution? How do we know that okay, this your solution is actually going to be the winning solution? There is the impact, which is 25 points, and there's the technology, which is 25 points. The impact in the sense that okay, do we see any like is your solution solving any united sustainable development goals? Is it targeted at this? Is it targeted towards that? Is it also is there evidence that the solution was inflated upon user feedback? That is it really a real solution? That is just basically it. Then the technology is that are you actually using Google technology? Okay. So are you actually using Google technology? Are you following the rules? Basically, that's the technology point, which is also 25 points. Since I'll be sharing the slide with you, I think it will be able to go through it better. So they want to know if you actually implemented all the technical components, if you addressed what issues. They want to know that okay, this code is actually working, the testing and iterations. They want to know that this is like an actual working application, and they want to know that okay, yes, this solution you are building, a user can actually interact with it, not that you are just building like you're just submitting an idea. It's not just going to be an idea. It's going to be like more like a prototype, something that is actually real and is actually working perfectly. So not perfectly per se, but at least working to an extent. Then so these are the questions on the submission form that you'll be asked to fill. There'll be a form where you need to fill, and the form in the form you'll be asked to describe the challenge you are solving for using a problem statement. Then they want to know what United Sustainable Development Goal. You don't have to solve everything. You can just solve maybe like you can maybe one or more basically. You can solve one or more sustainable development goals. Then you can also then they're also asking for the architecture or that your team chose for the solution, like the high level components. What is the responsibility of each component in your solution? They also want to know that why did you choose them? Why are you using this to implement these components? And they want to know that okay, yes, we've also done feedback testing and iterations and several others. They want to also walk them through the steps. And we'll be doing a lot of mentorship too, actually, as regards this. But I'm just trying to give you an overview of what the solution challenge is, the code testing and iteration. Then they want to know that the solution is actually a success, basically the metrics. They want to know what Google technologies are you using to track the usage analytics, or they want to know the numbers, they want to know the impacts. That is basically the numbers and several others. So they want to know that, yes, they want you to also upload a demo of your solution, at least that with a video that is demonstrating that your application is actually working, how the user will interact with the solution, and to make sure that the video also makes effective use of the chosen Google products. Like if you see, most of this is centered around the Google product, basically, that they want to know that you're actually using Google products, using the weather filter, whether you're using Firebase, you are using Android, you are using Google Maps, Google Cloud, just basically Google products, basically. So they want you to also explain how the technical architecture of the solution could support. So I'm sorry, I'm a bit fast. I'm trying to rush this because it's quite a lot. So I want us to be done with this quickly. So and creating a problem statement. Okay, a good problem statement present an opportunity of significance, urgency, and priority. Should not be more than one paragraph, basically, and it should include enough data that they can actually, from that one paragraph, they can understand the size and scope of the problem. So there is also structuring a problem statement. You want to know who is the problem, the solution for, what problem are you solving, where is this problem, or when is it or basically is it in one particular location or whatever, and why is this a problem? I want you to be able to tell about all of this. So yes, just like with like I in the timeline that I showed. So first of all, you need to also be a Google Developer Student Club. So if you are not registered, it's one thing to like, for instance, for GDSC Ahmadu Bello University, we have a WhatsApp group. The WhatsApp group is just there. You have to register on the platform, the GDSC platform for Ahmadu Bello University before you can be recognized as a developer student club member. So and then there will be info sessions and hackathons and design days, which will be running pan from now. Like for instance, we're having the info session right now, and January we have several others. Then we also form a team. Now it's time for you to form a team. To though we have plans also for that. If you don't have a team member or you know you have an idea and stuff, we'll be sending in a Google form shortly on our group. So where we'll be doing all of those. Then then you also know that make sure that you selected United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and also identify a solution, learn and build, then design the front end interface, design the back end technology, then test the solution. So this is more like a phase where you run through all of this to actually test your solutions. Then you record the demo, just like I have mentioned in the former slide where we have the timeline. The top 100 solutions will be announced, then the top 100 mentoring, then the top finalists. So there's one, it's not even just about if you're not able to make it to the top 10, you also have the opportunity to be mentored by a Googler, like someone who works at Google to be mentored by one of them. So, and I think this is like an amazing opportunity. So, then the top finalists will be announced and several others. So, these are like the frequently asked questions. Can my solution solve a problem outside of the scope of the 17 sustainable developer goals? Okay, for and one of what we basically understand from this is that you definitely have to solve your solution has to solve at least one solution. Doesn't have to be everything, but at least one. It's always advisable to have like maybe 1 to 3 basically because most times even the solutions we most of the solutions are all around like about like 3 sustainable development goals if you actually submitting like a real life like application that is actually solving a real life problem basically. Can one student or team submit with multiple submission if they've contributed to both projects? No, it means that only one entry per person. That means if you are in a team, you cannot also submit for another team or something, and so you're part of the other team. You have to be in just one single team. Can I still participate in the solution challenge if there is no Google developers? So, okay, this is just for communities or for areas where there are no Google developer student clubs in their university. So, given the implications of social distancing, our ability to test it, users was okay. Given the implications of social distancing, our ability to test with users was impacted. With the judges considered this. Okay, this is a scenario where, like for the is it 2021, is 2021, 2021, where the COVID-19, where there was no movement and everything. So like so this was one of the questions that was being asked. But now that we have freedom to move and go, especially here in Nigeria, so I think this doesn't really like interfere with us. So, but basically, the judges will surely be mindful of every limitations, which is why you must always state that okay, when you're submitting your solution, that okay, these are some of the problems you encountered or problem, or maybe like this is what these are the implications currently, the implications of the social distancing if there is, and or lack of internet access or proper development environment. So and several others. So like I said, I'll be sharing this slide to your. I'm just trying to briefly brush through it so that we would have more time for our speaker. So overview videos, calling all. So I'm supposed to actually clear of this, but because of time, I wouldn't be doing that. So okay, tutorial videos, identifying a problem, identifying a solution, design. Yes, this all of these are available. Like there are a lot of resources available for us. Maybe if there is time after the speaker, then we can come back to it and brush through it. So basically, these are the winners. These are the top 10 winners. We have the Blood Call. This is from Greece. We have the Blossom, which is from Canada, University of Waterloo, which is where RDT comes from. And we have Gateway. We have Gateway. We have from Germany. We have Get Rich from India. We have Save One Life from Kenya, more like the only African country um, that was in the top 10. Then we have Canada. We have Signify from Canada. We have staff from Turkey. We have Zero Zone from South Korea. We have I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. Is it Isaac or Isaac from South Korea? So yeah, so these are the winners for 2022, and and we have 2021 solutions winner. So, but like I said, this slide is really available for us to properly go through it. So I don't know if can you guys am I still communicating, please? I need to know, like in the chat section, please just tell us. Yeah, if I don't know if I'm still on the call or if can you guys hear me properly?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Thank you very much. So what past participants said, like for Android, developing an Android app from Android Studio is easy and all. So basically, these are like
Yeah, we can hear you.
we have Android, we have Flutter, we have Google Cloud Platform, we have Firebase, we have TensorFlow. So, and these are really very cool tools that we can use to solve our problem. And one amazing thing is that it's not just for developers that you have to be a developer to be part or to have a team. Because a team consists of like four members basically. You can have someone who is maybe like a business developer, someone who is maybe with the idea, and then we have someone who can develop the code, someone who can run the user testing, and several others. Then we develop the solution rather. Then we have so this is what makes a team. So you shouldn't be scared. And sometimes you might feel like maybe like this is just for the big boys or whatever. I really don't think it's so. Even though like we are also applying together, but I really believe that this is something we can do together and make success. And we'll be learning from Aditi on the insights also. So yeah, so the demo day was hosted on YouTube like July 28th, 2022 and showcased and Google Products experts and viewers asked the teams questions to learn more about their product. Yeah, so and also 2021 was hosted on August 26th. So we can't wait to see what you build, and I also can't wait to build as well because I'm not just going to be presenting here; I'm also going to be participating. So now you have your mindset set up because we'll be going, yeah. So is RBT on the line on the call rather? Okay, yes. So basically we'll be inviting Aditi right now. So she'll be coming up right now to give us insights, um, give us our insights and share our insights basically or about the solution challenge since she was the winner in the past this thing. She will be sharing more about the process and also the tips and strategies um, and how we can go ahead as a community to also participate basically. So yeah, over to you, Aditi. Thank you very much for joining. We are really glad that you are able to.
Hi, thank you for having me. So I'll just share my screen and then I'll begin. Okay, so everyone can see my screen, right?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. So I'm gonna go over some of the lessons that I learned participating in the Solution Challenge last year, as well as some things that you guys can take into account when you're looking at what type of product you want to build this year and you're going through the process again. And at the end, I'll leave some time to answer any questions that you may have and hopefully shed some more light on the process and what it looks like. So, just to begin, so a little bit about me, as it was said earlier. So, I'm an engineering student at the University of Waterloo, and myself with three other students from my university, we completed in the Google Developer Challenge last year, and our project was named Blossom. So, essentially, what we did is we created an app that was kind of a one-stop way for all menstrual product information, a menstrual product locator, and in general, a menstrual product like quiz section and daily log. So, kind of a one stop app for all menstrual information needs for young girls. So, that was kind of the goal of our app and also what we focused on in terms of UN development and making menstrual information more accessible to young girls around the world. And yeah, so the first thing that I did want to talk about, and this was mentioned earlier, so I think approaching the Google Developer Challenge, one of the most important things is to set a timeline because you do have 3 months, so it becomes very easy to think that you have a lot of time and then wait until March to really begin the development because you know that you have around 3 months to submit everything. But I think it's important to set some sort of timeline so you know that you're on track. This was the timeline that we used, and this was because we kind of decided that we were going to enter the challenge in mid-January. So we didn't have as much time, but if you're at this information session, if you know now that this is something you want to do, thinking about ideas and the product you want to make, you can start doing that even now. But definitely, a sample timeline you could use is by January. Make sure you have an idea, make sure you fleshed out all the details, you know exactly what you need to do, you know what you need to build, you know what each team member is going to do, and you have a comprehensive plan so that you're not entering the building process without all information. Then in February, I would say to finish most of the product development and begin working on the actual presentation and the questions that you need to answer and sort of how you want to present your demo, how you want the project to look like, and some of those more finishing details as opposed to the actual code. And then transitioning into March, that's when you actually need to make sure that everything is completed, all the submission tasks are ready, and then submit it by the end of March. So to give you a better idea of how we approached it with Blossom, so we had a team of 4, and we had one UI UX designer and 3 developers, and then one developer was more on like the data science machine learning side, and the other 2 were one was a full stack developer, another was a front end developer. So we did have a lot of developers, but we all had a little bit of UI UX experience and product management experience, and we had one member focused specifically on that. But of course, everyone is valuable in a challenge like this, even though it is a development challenge. So there's always a lot to do, a lot to consider, and a lot for everyone to do to make that final product presentation as great as it can be. So first, I'll talk a little bit about choosing an idea. So as mentioned earlier, generally the Solution Development Challenge is focused on the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and there are 17 goals for this year. And on that link that I included, and which I'm sure will be provided to you, there's all the UN goals as well as sample projects for each goal that are included there. And what these goals are is there's an image of all 17 here, but the official Google Development Club actually gives you sample projects for each idea, so you can get a really good idea of what they're looking for and what they want, and use that to inspire your own product idea. So for us, we were focused on menstrual product information and education. So we actually hit a couple of these goals. We were looking at quality education, so number 4, number 5, gender equality, um, and number 10, reduced inequalities, um, and a couple things like that. So you don't really necessarily need to focus on one specific development goal. You can, because there are, of course, overlapping aspects to each goal, you can kind of draw from each one. But when you're initially choosing an idea, what I would say is to, looking at these 17 goals, look at the ones that you're most interested in and you're most passionate about. Because when you're passionate about a topic, when you're actually creating the product, you'll have um, more more of a desire to create as great of a product as you possibly can make, as well as your passion for the product will show when you present and when you're talking about your creation and when you're thinking of things to include, because it's something that speaks to you. So for us, since the majority of our team was female and we also have a lot of experience with the lack of menstrual education and the menstrual stigma that exists in developing countries, and specifically because we're of South Asian descent, we focused on India as a use case. So this was all something that spoke to us, which is why we went with that topic. But initially, where we started was looking at these development goals. We looked at which ones we wanted to tackle, and then we thought about potential ways that we could tackle that UN goal. So, kind of a step by step process to summarize the process that we took is first to narrow down the goals you're passionate about and interested in, and then brainstorm potential products within those topics. So, let's say at first you're interested in no hunger, you're interested in reduced inequalities, and you're interested in life below water. So what you could do now is brainstorm some potential products. So if you want to make an app, or if you're looking for a physical product, you can think of some ideas under each development goal and really flesh them out. So make each idea as detailed as possible. Think about all possible, all necessary things that you'll need to create the final product to bring your vision to life, and make it as detailed. So once you have that detailed plan of these potential ideas, then you can choose the one that is most feasible and most interesting to your team. And by most feasible, what I mean is that, for instance, let's say you have two great ideas. One of them is this really interesting app that accomplishes all these specific problems, and it's very cool and very new, and you're very interested in making it and you're very passionate about it. But then when you're fleshing out the ideas and you're thinking of the components that the app would need, your team might not be the most equipped to actually develop that idea. So you need to think a little bit about feasibility and make sure that the idea, you actually have the resources to finish the idea. So if you have more UI UX designers than developers, then maybe a fully functional app is not the best way to go. Maybe you need to think about something else. And then that's where fleshing out the idea as much as possible and making as detailed of a plan in advance before choosing your idea is helpful, because then you can not only choose an idea that's interesting to your team, but also choose one that you're actually able to make. So for instance, for our project, initially we had a lot more features to our app. We're all interested in the idea that we chose, but we had a long list of things that we wanted to add, but we didn't necessarily have the equipment, the resources, or the time to accomplish all these goals. And then that adds tension to the project. It makes it harder to complete. It's harder to continue because you think that you might not be able to make it all the way. So biting off more than you can chew is definitely something to take into account in this initial stage. So some lessons that our team learns from this stage that can maybe help when you're thinking of an idea is to take your team's skill set into consideration. So this is what I mentioned earlier, where if you have more front-end developers, then maybe you want to focus on a website. If you have more back-end developers, then maybe you want to begin from the ground up, you want to use data in what you're doing, you want to create a full-fledged app because you have the resources to do so. Um, Things like that. So taking your team's skill set into consideration will help make sure that even if you're only making the front end of an application or of a website, you're able to do that and you're able to flesh out the idea as much as you can, because at the end of the day, it matters more how you present your idea, how you're tackling the UN goal, how you're thinking of these different things, how you're solving the problem, as opposed to how advanced the development is. And then the second main lesson is that there's a lot of time between when the challenge opens and when it closes. So by setting a timeline and using your time wisely, you can not only create a more comprehensive solution, but you can also make sure that you're leaving enough time to create the best possible product that you can, and you're not getting more stressed if you leave everything to the last minute and then in March you don't have as much time, because in addition to the development of the application or the product that you're making, there's also questions that you need to answer about the process, and there's around 6 or 7 questions, and they're around 1,500 characters, so there is a lot of writing to do. And you also need to create a video demonstration, which will take time to record and to practice and to figure out what needs to go there. So you need to make sure that in addition to making a good product and a working product, you need to leave enough time to do those submission tasks before the end of March, because those submission tasks can really make a difference in your final product. So in thinking about the solutions that you're developing and in trying to develop innovative solutions, some things that I would say to keep in mind is firstly, to be unique. So, what makes your product different from existing products? For instance, for our application, we focused on menstrual education, and there are a lot of menstrual cycle related apps that currently exist on the App Store. There's a lot of resources online, but what we needed to consider was what makes our product different from existing products to make sure that there's actually a need for the solution that we're building. And for us, what that entailed is we were putting all this different information in one age, and we're tailoring it specifically to young girls and to people who don't have access to this information in schools or growing up. So we tailored our project to them, and we also added some new features that we found were not included in existing applications, or if they were included, you usually needed to pay for them. So this is all part of the research that we did on existing products, which I mentioned in the second point on the slide. So by doing research on existing products that solve the problem that you've chose, you can ensure that your solution provides something new, because there's so many different things that already exist. It's going to be very difficult to come up with something brand new that would be an effective and realistic solution to whatever problem you choose. So by being aware of what it currently exists and factoring that into your solution by making sure that you're creating something unique, you can ensure that there is value to what you're creating. Then thirdly, user feedback. So for the Google Developer Solution Challenge, it's not only about the development. Yes, it's important that you create the app and you develop an application that works, because you do need to create a working demo, but more than complexity and more than the how great the app development is, it's important that you're considering the product that you're creating as a product from the ground up. So what I mean by as a product is you're thinking about not only the application, but how are we going to get this application to users? What's the importance of the application that we're building? How does this tie into the UN developer goals? How do we know that what we're creating is actually useful? So by getting user feedback, by creating use cases and actually getting your product out to consumers, or not necessarily consumers, but your friends or people who would use this product, get them to try it, get their feedback on it, and include that in your answers to the questions that they'll ask. Because what Google is wanting to know is they want to get a better idea of your mindset and your process and the process that you use to create the product. So aside from the complexity of the development and you using Google technology, they want to know why you're doing what you're doing, how you know that what you're doing is good, that you've considered the product from all angles. In addition to the development, you have good answers to the questions, you have detailed answers. It shows that you put a lot of thought into your solution as opposed to a lot of thought into the technical aspect of the solution, and that it's a holistic perspective, I would say, of the overall solution and how you're tackling the UN goal, because it doesn't end with just creating the product, which is what differentiates the Google Developer Challenge to just the average hackathon, because the presentation matters just as much as the final product. And then finally, ensure that your solution is relevant to the problem at hand, and that the problem at hand is one you are passionate about. So as I mentioned earlier, when you're more passionate about the problem that you're solving, this will show in the effort that you use, the effort that you put into while creating your solution, your effort into the responses, and also it'll help with knowing what to talk about. So for our solution, because we were talking about a topic that was very close to all of us, so we had a personal connection. That personal connection would show when we were talking about our product, when we were answering the questions, and we knew what we wanted to talk about and what we wanted to answer because we were sincere in why we wanted to solve that problem. So in your initial goal, it's helpful to think about problems that really resonate with you and you know that will make a difference and that will really help with answering the questions and with presenting your problem, because after March, at the end of March, once you actually submit your development, submit your app and submit all the questions, from there, it's if you make the top 100, it's all about how you talk about your solution, how you're presenting your solution, um, you're the way that you're talking about whatever you created, and it's more so on what you did and what you're going to do as opposed to the actual development specifics. So some general tips. So as I mentioned in the previous slide, product demonstration is just as important as product software. So you should have a strong development base. You should have some sort of product that you're talking about, but you should also be prepared to talk about your development choices and the way that you developed your product and the specific code that you use, the packages, the technologies that you use. So it's important to be aware of those things and to know how to talk about it. But that being said, it's important to know, to understand your design choices, your development choices, how this plays into the overall goal, how what you created actually solves the problem that you initially set out to solve. So by focusing on all aspects of the presentation and also focusing on the topic, it'll become much easier to answer those submission questions, and it'll supplement the good development that you've done. It'll supplement the software product that you've created by showing that you've taken into consideration all aspects of a product as opposed to only the development. So strong communication and strong presentation, I would say, is important as well. So what I mean by that is to spend time on your responses to the questions. So these are the questions that were mentioned earlier about what your solution is, how it addresses the UN goals, things like that. So by spending time on those responses, spending time on the demo, you can ensure that everything that you've developed and all the hard work that you've put into creating a tangible product is actually presented in a way that the judges who are just watching your demo to understand what you've created, that it speaks out to them and it's appealing to them as well because it's presented effectively. So that being said, it's important to ensure that your intentions and your product idea are communicated clearly and effectively. And one example of how you can make sure that that's being done is have someone who's not involved in the project read it or watch your demo, see if they understand, see if they understand your product, they understand what you're trying to say, and that they've received all the information that you're trying to give. So, to talk a little bit about the advantages of creating a product and participating in the challenge is that it provides many opportunities for aspiring entrepreneurs and innovators. So, let's say you do make top 100. What you get at this point is you now have Google mentors for the project. So these mentors are will help you with your solution. So they'll give feedback on your solution. They'll provide some guidance in terms of next steps. They'll give you some tips on your presentation. And they're a mentor that you can talk to that is a real working product manager or developer at Google. So they have experience with big tech and bringing products up from the ground up. You also have a network of finalists and other project competitors because you'll meet Google judges and Google employees, as well as employees from companies that are sponsored by Google. So Flutter and Firebase and other technology specialists you'll have a chance to meet and network with. And you'll also be able to win monetary prizes. So top 3 wins $3,000 USD, and top 10 will win money as well. So this, of course, is a good motivator to take the project as far as you can go. And then also, even if you were not to make top 100, if you don't make all the way up to top 10, you still get the experience of building a project from the ground up, which is invaluable in the tech field, in the tech world, because you're learning to encompass all these different things, and you're learning about not only good ways to create new software, but also how to make sure that that software is solving a valuable problem, that what you're doing is intentional, and to learn more about product development as opposed to solely software development. And then on top of that, once the project is done, so for example, for us, we won top 3, so we also have support to take that project even further, because the mentors that helped us or provided feedback to us when we for our year it was top 60, not 100, but the mentors that existed while we were in the top 60, they gave us feedback and they gave us an opportunity that if we do want to take the project further outside of the development challenge, they'll help us with that. They can provide feedback with that. They'd love to see where else the project goes. So it's kind of a lifelong opportunity that exists to take the project even further if you do want to. So that's all from my end, and if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer them, and you can just ask them in the chat or unmute and then ask me. And then also past this presentation, if you have any questions about your challenge specifically or your solution specifically or about the challenge, you can reach me by email or by LinkedIn, and I would be happy to answer any questions and provide any feedback if you would like. So yeah, so if anyone has any questions, oh, I think someone has their hand raised.
Okay, so Abdul Mujib has a question, so you go first. Please, if you have questions and you don't want to ask them, you can just raise up your, you don't want to read, like speak, you can just type them in the chat section. So, how about? And if you want to ask a question, please raise up your hand, please just unmute yourself. Yeah, thank you very much for the presentation, Aditi.
Yes.
That was awesome. Yeah, all right, go on. Abdul Mujib.
Okay. My question was, at what stage of development would the project be before you can put it into your entry for the challenge? Does it have to meet the MVP? Does it have to be at the MVP stage, or it can still be like an idea that is still developing?
So I would say that it would need to be at the MVP stage. You could take it further, or it could be like about to reach there. But the idea is because you have 3 months to develop something, and then even after you've made top 60, you have a time frame, you have the opportunity to make any adjustments to make it better. But more so, they'll focus on getting that product out there and seeing what users think. So they care a lot about having that minimum viable product and then seeing what you can do from there. So, um, for example, for ours, we had the actual application. It was not on the App Store or anything. It was just the code was done, it was there, and we could provide a demo. So I think the stage for it to be at would be a stage to where there is a working demo, because in the video requirement for the solution, you do have to submit a demo presentation about your product.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that.
Yes. No worries. And I see a question in the chat that says, do participants form teams with members of GDSC in their schools or get connected online to form teams with other schools? So usually you form a team within your own school, and you'll submit your project as a part of the GDSC Student Developer Club from your university. Um, if you have a friend who's not part of the club but wants to submit in the challenge, then they can just join the club at your university, and then you can submit together. And then you'll meet other universities and other schools, or there could be multiple teams from the same university that could submit, but it's usually within your own student developer club.
Sorry, in addition to that, so if you are on this call and you're not part of the WhatsApp group, please just indicate in the chat section so we can share the link to join our WhatsApp group, because we'll be having a form that will be sent out later to for those who are interested in forming teams, and just to aid the process of forming a team and all. So yeah, so that is that. So, I think there's also one more question. Someone raising their hand. So someone raising their hand. I think Zayad or something. This
Yeah, I was probably the one raising up my hand, giving to everybody from here. The question I actually wanted to ask, she has already answered it. I was wondering if I could make like connections with other students in other universities that weren't part of my Google Developers Student Club, so we could work on a particular project together. Well, I think she has already answered that. Thank you very much. It's nice having you around.
okay. Okay. So okay, Abdul Mujib is raising his hand up again. All right.
Okay, you mentioned you got feedback from like users of your product. Like, how far along in testing would like, oh, because if perhaps you have 3 months to build a solution, there isn't enough time to test out your solution. So, how far into testing was your solution before you went for the challenge?
So there are kind of two stages that we got user feedback at. The first was once we actually had our product idea, and we kind of we created like some sort of form or some sort of questionnaire that we sent to potential users. So for us, those potential users were young girls aged like around 8 to 14, who don't have much access to the product that we were creating. And then we asked them questions about what they thought, what their current education level of the product was. So this was to get a better idea of um, our user group, so who we our target market, that is to say, so who we were actually targeting. And then that was our first round of feedback, so we got a better idea of what their current understanding was, what the advantages they could receive from a product like ours, and then we used that um, as a part of creating our actual solution. And then once we created that solution and we had our MVP, then we sent it out again. So we gave them an opportunity to actually use the application and then give us our feedback, their feedback off of that. That being said, if it's a good, it would be beneficial to be at that stage to incorporate that into your user testing. And then once you submit your product, that's another thing that you can do in between the time, where if you were to make top 100, where you have more time, you can get more feedback, you can start sending out your product and just getting people to use it. But yeah, that's how we approached it. So I would just say that really you can get that feedback as soon as you have something that it would be useful to know that the people you're sending your product to would actually benefit from your product. And if they have any difficulties in understanding a specific part of it, you can change it before you finish that development. So it's kind of an ongoing process, I would say.
Okay, thank you for that.
No problem.
Okay, thank you very much for that. So, I would also like to ask a question. What inspired you to come up with your winning solution? Like, what was the
Yeah.
inspiration for you?
Yeah, for sure. So for us, what really inspired us, so first, when we were thinking about kind of what the problem space was, we wanted to do something related to gender inequality in education, because our team was mostly female, so that was a topic that we felt we could relate to more. And then when we were thinking of potential ideas, we came to menstrual education because we ourselves have had experience with the problem that we were trying to tackle. Because we had that sort of personal connection, we could relate to our users, and we had a better understanding of what they might want or what they might need, but also we had a better understanding of the problem space and the frustrations that come from the problem space. And that helped us with understanding the importance and the value of our solution and product. And that was because we were passionate about the topic, because it's something we ourselves have faced growing up, and something that is we understand to be an important part of a lot of the childhoods of the childhoods of like young children around the world. That helped us with choosing our final problem to tackle, I would say. And then as for the solution and why we went with the solution that we went with, we thought about it in the sense that if we were that user, what would best help us navigate this issue? What would we want if we were that age, and what would help us? And we did some research as well. And then also because by nature of our team, because we had some developers, we thought that an app would be feasible, and that's why we went the way we did for our actual solution.
Okay, thank you for that. We have another question in the chat box. It said, are we to use only Google technologies while developing our solutions?
Yes, so it's not a requirement to only use Google technologies. However, it is encouraged to use as many Google technologies as possible. And one of the questions for this mission is to talk about what technologies you use, and specifically what Google technologies. And generally, there are a lot of Google technologies that are available to use, or like a way to integrate those. So for instance, if you're doing anything to do with location, you can use the Google Maps API, you can use Firebase, you can use Flutter, which are all great ways to use Google technology. And generally the Google Cloud Platform has so many different technologies that I would say that you should use at least one, and the more that you use, the better, because it is something they encourage, of course, since that it is a Google Developer Solution Challenge.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for that. So, one more question. Okay, what do you think make your solution stand out? Like, what do you think make it stand out from other solutions, basically?
So In my opinion, I think what made our solution stand out is, in addition to that final product, we had that final product ready, but we also looked at like the UI UX features, and we also looked at the product features. So we did a lot of user feedback. It showed that we were thinking about not only the development of the app, but also how we were actually going to get this to users. And we were already getting feedback from users. So we're already taking into account how our product would be perceived and how it would work. And also, we did spend some time, we did dedicate some time to answer those submission questions. So we had really nuanced answers to those different questions, and we thought a lot about the actual communication of our product idea and why we chose the idea. So because I think the product presentation, it supplemented our actual idea. It helped us communicate better what we were trying to accomplish, and also present it in a way that was appealing and show that we put a lot of thought into our solution and into our process.
Okay, okay, that's great. That's really exciting. We have a question. Are we to develop? The question was Sayad. He said, "How we to develop software approach? Are we to develop software approach like an app or a physical product like hardware component?"
So there's no requirement. You can do a software approach like an app or a website, but you can also do a physical product with a hardware component. I believe there are some examples also on in those UN goals of some teams who did do hardware components. You could also do like a hardware and software component. So if you have a physical product and you're tying that into an app, it all depends on your team skill set and how much time you dedicate towards it. So if you have time to add those different components, or if your team is better suited to make a hardware component, that's definitely something you can do, provided you are meeting the submission requirements and the deadlines.
Okay, okay. Thank you for that. In addition to what you just said, I think there was a particular team that won. Um, I think it's Gateway. They developed a COVID-19 detection app. Then it was also it had some hardware component. So you can basically use both hardware and software. It depends, like you said, it depends on like the time frame that you are able to build a solution. So I don't know if there's anyone else that has any other question. Um, any other question before we? Okay, after Majid. Okay, once again, yeah, come on.
Okay. My question was, do you when getting ready for the challenge, do you like look at the finances you need for the challenge to become a full blown um app, or like an enterprise, or do you look at the finances that will be needed to make the app like a like a fully matured project that users can use? Do you do that?
So I would say to one, look at the requirements, so what they're actually expecting. So, for instance, they're expecting a video demonstration, so that tells you that you probably will need to have some sort of working product. However, you don't need to make it to the stage where it's like a full-blown app that users can use right away. Like, for instance, even at the end of our whole project, it's like our application is not ready to be put onto the App Store, anything like that. But it does exist. So it is something to keep in mind when you're choosing your initial idea. Because, for instance, let's say you have a really good idea for an app, but it's more feasible for you to have to create a MVP from a website, then maybe a web application would be better to do than an iOS or Android application because it's more feasible within the time frame. So I would say that's something to consider. But yeah, it's really dependent. If there's a lot of different types of ideas and different types of products and applications that teams have done in the past. So it really just depends on which one you can bring as close to the finishing as possible.
Okay, thank you. I don't know if do we still have any other question. Aditi, I'd like to ask, what advice would you be willing to give us as like as a community and as also a first time entrant?
Yeah, so in general, the advice I would give is to one, start early and really flesh out the idea. So before you actually begin developing your product, begin with uh, brainstorming a potential idea and writing out all the details of your idea and looking at what you would need to make, what each team member would need to do, how you would actually get to that final stage, and use that information that you write out as uh, as like a factor. So use that as something to influence your decision on which idea to go with, and begin that early, because as soon as you actually have your tangible idea, and the more details that you begin with and you begin planning out, the easier the development part would be. And then also, um, another piece of advice I would give is to definitely leave enough time for all these different things, because sometimes choosing an idea can be difficult. It's difficult coming up with new things, but also the development might also be difficult if you think that something might be simpler than it does end up being. And then also, you need to leave time for those submission questions and recording the video demonstration. So I would say the two main things is to one, choose a problem that to really think about the problem and your solution before choosing a problem specifically, and two, setting a good timeline and making sure that you leave enough time for each things you need to do. So maybe you could like create a whole checklist of everything that needs to be done, um, allocate different tasks to different team members, and just make sure that you're aware of the time frame and aware of what needs to be done, so you leave enough time to effectively complete all parts of the project.
Okay, thank you very much for that. We are really glad for to have you here, for taking your time also. Okay, so I think there is also one question. Speaking of time, is there a time limit to finish the project? Would you be willing to answer that?
Yes, so I think you can register for the competition beginning January, but you already have they already released like in general what the project would be about. So you can start thinking about your problem and your solution now. You can start doing research on past projects now, and then you must submit it by March 31st, I believe.
Yeah. So in addition to that, we'll be sharing a slide where you, there's a timeline. That's okay. Thank you very much. Let me share that. There's actually a timeline. I don't know if you came in early, but so yeah. So yep. So this is basically the timeline. The submission closes on the 1st of March. It opens on the 17th. Like this from 17th to 31st is when you need to submit your solution. Then from the solution challenge is announced like it goes like it's announced officially on the 11th of January, and kickoff event on 15th. And so yeah, so this is just basically the timeline, and yeah, so that's just it. So I really want to. I don't know if there are any other questions. If there are none, so we'll be wrapping off this particular meeting. So thank you very much, Haniti. Thank you for taking your time out to speak to us and share your insights. And in fact, that's been a wonderful session, and I really gained a lot, and I get to learn. I got to learn a lot. So thank you very much for this. Really appreciate as a community and as individuals basically for this. So you can always reach out. Can always reach out. So you can connect with her basically on LinkedIn. She shared a slide so earlier, so you can connect with her on email. We share the link basically in our WhatsApp forum, and just like I yes, okay, thank you. Just like I mentioned earlier, we'll be having we'll be working. We've been working like as a community basically to be able to help with the peering. Like let's say for instance you're a developer and you don't have a team, or you have an idea but you do not have a team and you need a team. And okay, thank you for the link. And you need a team for to join and everything. So we'll be sharing some resources, and we'll be sharing a form basically for those that are interested in participating, because we really want to start preparing, and we'll be providing mentors as well. Like we'll be having a lot of people, a lot of mentors to guide us through, not just even before the submission of the solution. So yeah. So thank you very much, Aditi. Please, I wanted to chat in the. I wanted to type in the chat box like thank you, Aditi. Just pour out your beautiful messages, or your thank your thank you messages. Please please do that. Please do that in the chat box at least for these few seconds before we call it night. Please chat. Please chat. Please type there. Thank you, Aditi. Let's give her a shout out. So guys, I'm not seeing. Yeah, thank you very much. See you there. Yeah. So let's keep coming. Let's keep coming. So thank you very much. Really appreciate your time. So this is basically the end of the session. Thank you all, everyone, for coming. Thank you, guys. Like, yeah, thank you. I can see the comments. You can keep them coming. Keep them coming. So we also like I told you to introduce yourself. You can also take this time to keep introducing yourself. At least we'll be able to shut off. We'll be able to shut off the meeting like basically roughly by I think 8:20 or 8:25. So you can take this time out to also introduce yourself, have like chat with one another and all that. Yes, I will be sharing the link. Let me see. Yeah, let me share the link now. So this is the link to the like. Okay. Let's see. Okay, I'll be sharing the link to the slide on the WhatsApp forum. I need to make some edits, so I'll be sharing the link to the slide on WhatsApp. So thank you very much, guys. Do have a wonderful night. Thank you, Aditi. Thank you once again for joining the session. So do have a wonderful night. The rest. Good night, guys. Thank you for coming. Yeah. Bye bye.
Thank you.